welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome and welcome back. If you have, my intention is unity and oneness. Light bulbs have been going off, so I decided to share my light fixture, which is a pretty cool light fixture. I'm kind of obsessed with light fixtures. This is part 2 of a video I did recently in response to some questions that had been asked of me and the guides. And I thought, well, I'm going to share these questions to kind of give me a foundation. Sometimes I just drop into flow and let whatever comes through come through. And, it's always about trusting. I go into my heart. I set my intention to be in a place of love and bliss and harmony so that everything that I bring through is as neutral as possible. We are all channels. We are all poured into this medium of energy. And I want to just talk about the definition of that a little bit. Some of this is going to be physics. Some of this is going to be physics. I always laugh because clearly I'm not a physicist, but the information that I receive has to do with thermodynamics and some things that I'm going to work on interpreting in front of the camera, and you and I will learn together how it is that I communicate this information and what it really means. Some of it isn't meant to be interpreted. Some of it's just meant to be felt. We all get information from the field in our own way. Some of us feel it, some of us see it, some of us hear it, some of us just know. And some of us learn first and then kind of tune in after we learn. And we all have a different style, technique, or flow. And I'm really here in this moment. I want to invite everybody and encourage everybody to be playful with this, with not only what I'm about to share, but just feeling into this frequency that we're all connected through, these pathways and nodes, and just recognize that it really is a medium. If we look at ourselves as artists, what do we want to work with? How do we want to express ourselves? What feels good as we work? Does it feel better to work with our hands? Does it feel better to use our imagination? Well, in art, we're using our imagination no matter what. Does it feel better to be in stillness and allow the energy to be felt? These are all ways of tuning in, because I get asked a lot of times, or it's commented a lot of times during session, well, I wish I could be clairvoyant, or I wish I was psychic, or whatever we want to, I wish I had those feelings. We all do. We just aren't necessarily recognizing it. And so just because we don't recognize it, just because we can't see it, doesn't mean it's not there. So I really want to encourage everyone to just be open. And the more playful we can be, the more curious we can be, the more it allows that energy, knowingness, feeling, thought, sensation, vision, sound, we become more aware of it. It's already there. Everything's already in the field. Everything is within us. Everything is inside of us. So it's a matter of us relaxing enough sometimes to just allow that energy to just drop in, to sink up, to then allow that frequency to flow through us. My style is very different than a lot of other people's styles, and I tend to combine all I got. I tend to combine all of it. Some people are much more about the physical body, or about physics, or about art, whatever it is. I'm just encouraging everyone to play. The other thing that I wanted to kind of come through, did I already mention we were going to go into some physics? I would like to go into some practical things, hopefully in this video, to help on this journey. And also so I'm going to start off by going into flow. Then I'm going to start interpreting some of the things that are coming through. And then I might combine this with an interpretation of the previous video that I did. But because I feel called, when I say I feel called, it's almost, I go into my heart, I take a deep breath in, and I just kind of ask, where should I go with this? And if I hear words flowing in, I know that that's going to be a time to maybe channel. If I don't get anything or I get crickets, it's maybe a time to ask questions, to ask different questions. Might be a time to write. It might be a time to move, get outside. Sometimes my guides are like, get out of your office and go and get your feet dirty. Get in the dirt, get in the grass. Okay, so it's meant to be felt. So as we tune into these energies, it becomes a seamless transition. And they're referring right now, my guidance team, which is a collective of energies that I just am tuning into. When I say we, it's me and that collective, but it's also you and your collective, right? So whenever we tune into these energies, it can be very seamless. And as we do this, it becomes a seamless interaction, or a movement, or a dance, if you will, with the energies in collaboration that we are all, again, poured into. The matrix of the sublime, we might say. For in this sublime alchemy, we are all tuned and connected through this musical scale of notes and harmonics. So I'm being called to share, like if you look at a sheet of music, and then I'm going to go into medium. I just realized I have this background and I can't get my whiteboard up. So I'll go to that next. But basically I was being shown sheet music, right? And the notes that you write on the sheet music. The sheet, the lines are the container or the canvas in which the notes are written and expressed through ink, through the imagination, through envisioning this, through symbols. And then once the person that is playing the musical instrument or the other medium for expression, let's say a flute, that carries a note or a sound or a frequency. And, in a symphony, you have many different instruments that are all playing the same song. They each play their role in the symphony. And essentially that's kind of what the guides are showing me. It's like, where does the sound come from? Where is it coming out of? This medium that is the silence, that is coming through the medium that is the human, that is coming through the medium that is the instrument, that is coming through the medium in which that was written, the ink or the symbol is another medium. So just playing with this, and I'm being called to share the definition of that, so we will. Okay, the medium is a material that moves energy or light, and this is in physics, a material that transfers energy or light from one place to another, or from one substance to another. The medium can be any state of matter, such as a solid, liquid, gas, or plasma. So that's just an example. And then, so it's a very general term. And it's funny because, we call ourselves mediums in between one place and another, right? So if I'm channeling, right? Channelers or people that are, whenever I'm working with someone on the other side, it's just a space in between this place and another place. But really, if everything is all mixed into one great medium, the divine, there is no separation. It is only our perspective of separation. So that's really been challenging for me to wrap my brain around. And the guides use that word constantly in a very broad sense of the word. So we are in this moment in mass. So en masse, M-A-S-S-E. We could say we're in a mess too if we wanted to. Moving energy. Each of us are shooting out bursts, if you will, of quanta, of energy that is quantified, that can be multiplied, that is being remembered, that is being, I'm seeing embers that are sparking to life again. We are sharing this because it is time to renew our abilities to connect with bigger things than what we have been focusing on. Many of us have been focusing on things that are very minuscule. This is a play on words. They are things that have been keeping us locked into habitual programming, patterning, and divisiveness. They are things that have been powering or fueling an old system that at one time was very, very dense. And so as we break out of this density, we are desiring a flavor for more. We are feeling our taste buds, if you will, salivating for more, for something that is not what we have tasted before. We are looking for this new flavor, if you will. And let us call the new flavor and a myriad, I'm hearing flavonoids, but we'll play with that. Let us call the new flavor a new element. Let us call the new flavor a new perspective. Let us call in an injection of new spices and elements that we have yet to categorize. And this gives us the feeling or the ability to open our eyes. And I'm hearing things that make you go, or yum, like, ooh, that's delicious. I've never tried that before. What can I mix that flavor with? What would be a good side dish to accompany this flavor? And we use these basic terms and terminologies to help us understand the higher elements, if you will. The higher combinations of the elements is what is happening at a subatomic level. For in this subatomic scaling, there is much that is being realized. And so we are being called to neutralize the palette a bit so that we can stabilize our energies enough to recognize the flavors that have entered our path. So when we tune into these energies and we start to endorse them, play on words, we come into a unification with them. And in this elemental combination, we allow ourselves to merge with the medium in a different alchemy trajectory, if you will. I'm seeing chemistry, like you mix different elements and you get a different reaction, you get a different response, and that changes the actual shape of the element. It changes the outcome of the project. And I'm hearing outcome of the projections. So what we thought we were going to be, going to see, going to feel is not necessarily the same combination that we thought we would be working with, if you will. And this is exciting for many and doubtful for some, creating doubts, creating feelings of insecurity, creating feelings of fear. And this is all part of the linear evaluation that we are each going through as we reevaluate our circumstances, as we reevaluate the circle that we sit within. We are being invited to find our center so we can find the stillness before we send out the pulse, if you will, that shifts our energetic quandary. All right, I'm going to play with this for a moment. So this is a play on words because quanta, quantum, quandary, there's something they're playing with Q-U-A-N. But they're saying before we send out our state of quandary, so before we send out the state of perplexion, essentially, I'm looking at them online, it's what, when, and what time. All right, so I see where we're going with this. So when we are not sure about what time or what time is or our trajectory or when is this going to happen, this is part of what is shifting. So let us go into this a little more deeply. So I'm being called to just come back and play with the words later. Okay. We are standing in a parallel expression, if you will, and we might call this the parentheses. We utilize this piece, or this game piece, if you wish to call it that, the parentheses, to give us a state of holding a space. And we can use the parentheses as a definition for many different definitions or quandaries. We can look at many different symbols that the parentheses give us, but let us play with this for a moment and utilize this as a schematic for a parallel dimension. Think of yourself as standing in a parallel reality that is encapsulated within a container or a space of containment that still allows for maximum creation potentials. This parallel reality is a dimensional frequency that, once encapsulated within it, gives us the freedom to see backwards, forwards, upwards, and downwards in all frequencies, timelines, and dimensions. But we do not see it necessarily in the way that we think we see it, nor can we apply time to this parallel dimension or reality. So this is why oftentimes, especially currently, time seems so radical, because the shifts or ways in which we calculate our quantas throughout the day or units of time are not working the same in this parallel reality. For in this dimensional fold, we may call it, you are being encapsulated with more energy that gives you the ability to quantify at a higher rate of expectancy. It allows us to morph or shift or dissolve the expectations around what we are co-creating and how quickly it can come to fruition. You would not necessarily jump the ladder without stepping on the ring or rung that is the next step up, for it would be unsafe to do so. However, in a quantum entanglement theory, let's call it that, you can jump the ladder at any time. In fact, what ladder? Everything is connected now. This parallel parentheses or dimension or space or holding pattern in time allows you to graph, if you will, that's a play on words. I'm seeing creating a graph, like looking at something mechanically, mathematically, but also when you graph something on like skin, you do a skin graph. It's like a merge of old and new, and then like soldering it. I know that sounds kind of gross, but that's what I'm hearing, soldering it together. And it allows you to unconventionally design the new schematic with your mind, yet also combining frequencies with that of the great mind. And I'm hearing great minds think alike. So let us play with this for a moment. In this parallel tube, from our perspective, you are holding a pattern or frequency or objective, and you are tuning into what is all around you from a different point of view. You are able to oscillate, if you choose, back to the original point of view that you jumped from. Yet once you are held within this pattern, it is difficult to jump back. It is easier to stay centered, to gravitate more towards the greater mind, the greater composition, the cosmology, if you will, of the frequency that we have all been birthed into, that is beyond the old linear time scale. And I know this is challenging to understand for all of us, myself included, but we invite you to stick with this for a moment. For the energy that you are creating in this tube we are referencing is creating, I'm seeing like a tube of chemistry that you create and you use, but I'm also seeing like the tubes in like the mitochondria in the body. And then I'm seeing like an energetic, literally a tube, like beam me up, Scotty, that kind of tube. I'm seeing light in this tube. Think of this as I'm going to say all the stuff that's coming through. Metabolic recess, metabolic exchange process. Think of this as a cosmic, tubular, energetic quanta of frequency that has a membrane around it that allows an exchange to happen while safe and secure, snug as a bug in a rug. It allows this exchange with the ionosphere to be much more productive, if you will. Okay. You have created this through your own willingness to participate, if you will, in this reality structure, in this energetic exchange with the divine architecture that you are all landscaped into and that you are co-creating together. I'm hearing wielding, I'm seeing a sword, I'm seeing welding together. And as you allow this energy to morph around you, your body exchanges with this energetic component or this fluid duct, if you will, this fluidity of energy that allows for you to stabilize a frequency and pattern domain so that in the future, you'll remain intact. Play on words. I thought this was going to be answering some questions, and it is. Okay. It creates a synergy with the new mapping system of reality, and it holds a bow, if you will. Play on words. I'm literally seeing a bow and arrow. I'm seeing, that's a play on words, it holds the bow. So when you are getting ready to pull the arrow back, it's held inside of the bow, and I'm being called to play with this, but I'm also seeing like a bow as a gift. Like, here you go, it's wrapped in a bow, right? It makes it prettier for somehow, or it makes it kind of keeps the package together is what I'm hearing. All right, I'm being called to play with the crossbow reference because this was referenced in the first video. The physics of a crossbow involves the conservation of energy. Now I'm seeing. So the last video, the guides are like, slow down. Okay, you're being held right now. The conversion, so the conservation of energy, the conversion of potential energy to kinetic energy, and the time of flight of the projectile, the quandary. What time? When? When the string of the crossbow is released, the potential energy stored in the limbs is converted into kinetic energy, which propels the bolt forward. Now, I know there's some things going on astrologically, and I would love to do a video with my friend and sister, Candace. Something about the upcoming energies, they're going to be like massively even pushing us even faster. And my guides in the video last time said that what part of what we're talking about is for the future. So that could be February of next year, but we're in a state of preparation. But what we're doing is we're actually creating while we're in this state. It's not like we're not active, but we're being called to really slow it down and hold that angle so that when we do launch our trajectory, it's at the right time with the right amount of energy to, I'm hearing propulsion, to get as far as we can, because there's something about the alignment of where we are. What I'm hearing is there's less drag. So there's less drag. So why don't we utilize this crosswind is what I'm hearing. So that I'm seeing, like, you know, when bike riders get right behind each other and they kind of block the wind. There's something about our lineup that is really important for us to not only stabilize ourselves. I have a feeling this is how they're talking about Earth. So we could play with this however you wish. Our physical body, our choices in our reality with friends and family, our jobs, how we're interacting with community, what we're doing with our careers, our school, our children, or our relationship to Earth and other planets, our relationship to higher dimensions. It's like this is a moment where we're actually, I see us, we have an advantage. So take advantage of this time. And they're calling it, it's an example. So the bow that they're referring to, if I go into physics and action, it's an example of elastic potential energy, the limbs of the bow. But there's something about, I'm being shown the specific angle of the bow. So let me get my whiteboard out. All right, welcome to my office. Got our lovely bubbies in the background keeping us company. So I've got my wonderful whiteboard here, and I was called to draw these symbols, and again, not really sure why, but I was being shown this infinity symbol in between two moons. So these are the moons. I've been getting messages about two moons. I know we have a comet that is coming in, and from what I've heard some people say, I think I listened to a video recently, and they said that astrologically the moon, it acts like two moons. And then my friend Jess just sent me something about Lilith moon. Again, astrology is not my, I'm more of just an energy work kind of girl. But what I was being shown is this infinity loop between two moons. I left this up from something I wrote in a previous video, and I'm going to come back to that. I was shown this two world split, and I was shown it's like, think of tectonic plates doing this. And so they're still connected, but it's like these two worlds, and then some energy forms around it. I was shown a hypercube, which I'll have to come back to later. Which that is not a hypercube. It's like a cube inside of a cube. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I was shown that. And I was also shown, like in my vision in the video, I had seen all of these cubes, like fractal, right, of a cube. Where was I going with that? Oh, I just wrote down bow and arc. So the word that came through was arcing and a bow, because I feel like this shape of the bow is important, and I'm hearing it bows out. It has something to do with units of energy in space. And I think the archer, oh, duh. Sorry, I had a little bit of an interruption. So let me just go back into flow and kind of see where we're going with this, and then I'll have to, and I'm actually going to record this while I do this so I can backtrack if I get lost again. And so within this field, within this space, is an algorithm. The algorithm can be picked up on. It makes a sound. It is a frequency that makes a sound off of a derivative of an energetic component that allows us to sync up with a platonic category, if you will. We're going to play with the words, so don't get caught up. I'm going to play with the words right now, not to get caught up on the definitions yet. So we are held within this tubular frequency, if you will, and the tube is a cylindrical shape that within it holds a vibratory sequence in itself. And we might say that it is self-contained, and each of us is contained within this space, and we are creating individual waves that add to the frequency of the entire spectrum of frequencies. And as we are sending out these waves and signals, it creates a bountiful transposition that allows us to equalize our rhythms, equalize our exchanges in a gravitational pull, play on words, of fluctuations organizing a combination that creates a full spectrum experience, but also a full spectral reorganization. I'm hearing of tubular optometrics. Got to pause on that one. So if you picture, let us say in the ocean, many microtubules that are floating around in their contained space, sending out signals and disrupting the patterns of signals that are not necessarily attached to the code that is being sent out from this new codex of information or energetics. And so this is where the paralleling comes into play. It is almost as if we are being placed inside of this field, that it gives us the opportunity, and I'm hearing optimology, opportunity, optimum potential in how we see. We can see simultaneously the other tube or the other field. Yet we are held within our own space where it does not have the same effect on the other field, or let us say the same geometry, optometry composition. So it is difficult to explain, for this is a multidimensional explanation of reality, or where we are at in this time supposition. And we are using many different words because we are seeking not to just talk about a linear explanation of what is happening. Instead, we wish to paint a picture of microtubules, tubes, geometries, parallel dimensions, and realities, so that the listener can feel into their own vocabulary of how this sits with them, where they sit in the field. How would it feel to be self-contained and be able to make decisions within this field that would have an impact on the whole, yet not in a negative way, almost as if we are being gifted the ability to feel in this space of containment what we are feeling without knocking down the future trajectory, without knocking down another person's future trajectory. All right, I'm just gonna keep going with this. I'm hearing, I get knocked down, but I get up again. Ain't nothing gonna keep me down. I get knocked down. Now, we might say that there are people out there knocking other people around, and sometimes we are going to feel the reverberation of that parallel dimension because everything is connected in this quantum field. But we would invite you to see that in the midst of all of the things that are being dissolved, there is a sense of isolation that many people are feeling. And this is because we are being called to go within our own space, to hold that space and observe what is in the field around us that might be seeking to knock us over. And we can see it, and from our containment, feel safe in that recognition. When we find that sense of security by us looking at that particular field, person, place, or thing, or angle, with feeling, we can change it, how we interact with it in that moment, because the membrane that we are encapsulated within is helping us to transmute and transmit and stabilize and decode the information in a different way than it once did or once was, meaning we understand the symmetry more. We feel into the simultaneous real-time movement that is helping us move along this trajectory. We can see this other space from a different speed, a different angle, We do not hold the same contemplations that we once did. Therefore, we do not hold the same complications that we once did. Many of us were tripping over our own feet and our own toes. This is giving us the space to not step on other people's toes if we choose to go within and find this alchemical tube. Again, lots of references about tubes, and hold that energy and allow it to weave and work its way through our own symmetry. Our own ability becomes apparent to bury the old in the old ways, the cemetery, if you will. And we do not, I'm hearing grave diggers. We don't continue to dig up all this old stuff or skeletons in the closet. This is also a reference to October and the timing of Halloween or October 31st. There's something about this, again, timing wise. And so we will play with this in a different format. Once you lock in to your own system, and once you feel as if you are being supported in the system, even if it still feels a bit wobbly, you are being held. It allows you to transmute and transmit at a much higher space, for it pulls you into a field of less distortion, or it allows you to see through a field of less distortion. Okay, so what I had been shown is a person in a tube, right? It's a cylindrical, it's like a field of energy. And I'm calling it that for some reason. That's what the guides are calling it. But we could say, you know, some people might refer to that as our biofield. Some people might say it's our aura. Other people might say it's our Merkaba. I'm not being shown the shape of a Merkaba right now. I am being, although you could refer to these points up above as stars, because the guides have spoken about that. I'm also being shown this I did in my previous video. These two tubes that are, there's this tube 1 and this is tube 2. So here's one person here and here's one person here. And they're moving along, right, this space. Now let's call this a high, they're saying it's parallel. And they're parallel, but one is a higher frequency or on a different time lapse than the other one. So this one's different than this one. This one has more information. This one's slightly different variation. And what they're showing me is that it causes a disruption in the codons, and it allows certain things to be transported through the codons, and then when they all come together at the end. So they're all kind of coming together at the end of this, at the end of the road. But they're separate right now to give us the ability to look. We can see this. The others can't see that. Like, we can see what others can't see when we're in this higher frequency. But we all have this opportunity if we want to use it. I'm just being shown not everybody's going to. Some people are going to be going through their tube, going to be going on their conveyor belt, right? Their escalator through the airport, and they're not going to be looking around. This escalator is going at a certain pace that we don't have to get off the escalator. We can look at things and it's going to just come to us. And then we're going to process and we're like, nope, that goes back there. This comes with me. I'm going to leave that behind. And we're watching maybe even the other version of us on that other escalator, not seeing. I don't know how to explain it other than that. So I'm going to call it and end on that note. To be continued. I'm going to go back and redo this video, I'm sure, at some point. Namaste.